everybody? It's me, Mark, and I'm back again with another episode of Blerdkast. And yes, I have another guest on who's in the comics field, and I can't wait to interview them. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, so my name is Sam Willis. I am the co-creator of Raze Comics, a brand new take on the zombie genre.
Oh, so why is it a brand new take? What makes it different from the rest?
Well, first of all, we really don't call them zombies. We're coining the phrase infected. They're pretty much the in-between. So you have zombie and you have human, and we have that middle part. So that's what the infected are. So it's kind of a mix of both. They're kind of rage-infested monsters that just want to beat the living crap out of you. So that I would say is different, and also the way they spread their infection. It's not through bite, as traditional as zombies are. It's actually skin-to-skin contact. So if they touch your arm, you have a little bit of time to kind of like either wash it off or do something to try to stop the infection. But ultimately, that's how it spreads. And as we kind of go through our comics, you're going to see how we explore, I think, that field of how that happens.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. And I see here you have a Kickstarter that's almost at this end point. So you're raising money to fund your book, basically, to get prints and things out there. How's your Kickstarter going so far?
Oh man, it's it's been crazy. I'm excited. We're excited to do the Kickstarter, but I think it took us. We planned for 4 to 5 months for this, and like seeing how many people have come out and supported us, and obviously we were able to reach our goal, and now we're kind of in the stretch goals portion of our Kickstarter. But we're super happy with the outcome. We didn't think, the amount of people that would show up, and it just gives us hope that people still want the zombie genre and the horror genre. So it definitely gives us hope in that sense. So we've been super happy with how the outcome has been.
I think people still want good zombie stories. I do feel like personally, especially in the TV field, TV and film field, zombies are kind of played out, but in the comics, they are thriving, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just get this interview started. And like many of my interviews, I like to start with this very first question, and that is, what are you currently geeking out to?
Geeking out to? Oh man. So just because I'm a lover of pretty much everything, but one thing that I've been geeking out to is one of the newest horror movies that I saw, which was Hereditary. And it's not really a new horror movie, but it took me a while to find this movie. And so I just started watching it and whatnot. And like me and my co-creator, who just love to pick apart movies, we probably watched it like 3 times already. And I've been going back to Matt Reeves' Batman just because I think it's beautifully shot, the way they kind of did the whole detective sense of it. That's been kind of what I've been doing rewatches of, and just like analyzing plot points, perspectives, all that good stuff.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of your backstory. Obviously, you identify as a geek. You have a career in something that's kind of geeky. So
Yes.
where did it all begin for you? I know you didn't just wake up one day and want to write for comics.
Yeah, so it was kind of, I don't know, I would say it was almost like grandfathered in a sense, just because like like the first comic book I ever had, I was like 6 years old. It wasn't even a comic. It was like an Avengers coloring book. And I remember just like coloring it as a kid, and I didn't know like what these characters were. And then as I kind of like, I went through elementary school, I was a huge like kind of like Dragon Ball Z fan. And I was I was a huge Marvel fan too. And like back in the day, me and my brothers would just take like these old like these characters, put them on Photoshop, and just mess around with their color schemes and whatnot, and just like research characters and just kind of get invested into the comic book world. And I think that's kind of what started the love. And then I started to kind of transition over to comics as I got a little bit older and kind of started to read different storylines and different comic books. And I think that's kind of how I got involved in that. I think that medium, I would say.
So what is it about comics that draws you to it the most versus any other medium of entertainment?
Oh man, I mean, I believe like for me, it's almost like the origin of what you can do in a movie, because, and like you've been seeing in the movies now, it's like a lot of these panels, a lot of these ideas, it's getting played out in movies, like getting ripped from the comic book page and put into a movie and TV show. So I ultimately think it's the blueprint and the things you can do visually, especially like nowadays with how technology has advanced so much, is like I've been seeing indie comics that are really thinking outside the box, and that's kind of been my inspiration now, is really to push forward the medium of storytelling and where you can take a story, where you can take a character, where you can take an idea. It's a lot of people, like, I know obviously movies, you got to have a buttload of money, but for, artists and, writers, it's kind of just like pen to paper. And obviously it costs some money to make comics too, but
Right.
it's ultimately like there are no boundaries in that sense, especially in the indie, I think, spectrum. You can pretty much do whatever you want. There's no limitations to the storytelling that you can provide to your fans and to the general public.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true. So how did you get into writing for comics versus, say, being an artist or an inker or any of the other professions as far as creating the comics?
Yeah. So one thing you got to know is I consider myself a good writer, but when it comes to drawing, I'm terrible. I've tried to draw. I've tried to teach myself to draw. I just don't think I'm gifted in that sense. I think it would have to me be drawing every day for 10 years to have something I think mediocre. I'm just not a good artist. So I've tried, and I've helped out with some. One thing we have on the Kickstarter is the stickers, and I helped out with the line art. So I've been trying to teach myself how to get better at drawing and ultimately be more efficient, obviously, on the production side of things. But in no shape, way, or form am I drawing for these comics. I'm just not skilled in that sense. So I try to do everything in my power to really exceed with writing, breaking down story dynamics, characters, plot points, perspectives, anything I can do on that side of things. I will always try to put my effort towards that.
Gotcha. That's really cool. So how did you get into writing per se?
Oh man, it was honestly like when I was in third grade, I was always a fan of like the horror genre, and just one day I just started writing stories in class when I was just bored. And like it literally came to like a point where in sixth grade I did a book with someone in my class who could draw. And it was almost in a sense we were already creating comics in sixth grade. I was fortunate enough where my co-creator's my middle school best friend. So, you know, this idea came up in middle school, and we just kind of started to go down this rabbit hole. And 15 years later, here we are making a comic book and putting out this project in the industry. So I mean, I was lucky enough to find a really good partner in this, and
Hmm.
someone who could kind of push off ideas, throw ideas around. And now, issue 5 we're coming out with, he's now the artist full time, so we're really fortunate in that sense.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Do you have any other, or let me ask this another way? Do you only write for comics, or do you have other medias of writing that you like to dabble in from time to time? Novels, novelettes, any books, anything like that?
Yeah, so a few not a few months ago. This was probably, I would say, maybe a year and a half ago. We tried entering a TV screenplay into a competition. So I've always wanted to tell it in any medium I can. Obviously we're starting off with comics, but I think you know in this day and age you can pretty much learn anything as long as you have the passion and time and you want to put in the effort across. We're working on a few things that we can't really say right now, but I definitely think we want to bring our storytelling to any medium we can. Yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. We're working on our comics, so that's our main focus right now.
Right.
But obviously, as time goes on, we're going to see obviously where we could implement our storytelling and our ideas into different mediums.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I have an interesting question I would like to ask you,
Yes.
uh, just because of something I recently went through over the weekend. But did you go to school for writing, in any capacity, or do you have a degree in writing, or do you think school would help you in this career aspect of being a comic writer?
So as far as my background goes, no, I haven't gone to school for writing. I originally, like, this was supposed to be a video game and I was going to school for that. Unfortunately on my side, I come from a family that does not have money, that does not have the capacity to put myself through school. So everything that I've learned, I've taught myself. I'm always researching. I'm always studying. It's one thing that I pride myself on because I think, not to bash school or anything, but I think there's so much information out there where you can learn it yourself if you
Right.
have the drive.
Right.
There's so many different resources now where I think anyone who wants to get involved in whatever they're doing, they can find how to do it in some capacity. Obviously, it's good to go through school because you have all these people who are either masters of writing or have been in this field for a very long time. So unfortunately on that side, I wasn't able to experience it, but everything I watch and everything I read, I unfortunately have to deconstruct it. I'm like the worst critic in the world because that's how I learn on what either works or what.
Gotcha. That's actually really unique perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so let's get a little bit more into the comic itself. Why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit more about Raze itself and what makes it more unique than other zombie stories?
Yeah, so first off, where issue one picks off, it's kind of just throwing you into this world. There is no background information on these characters, there is no origin story. You're kind of seeing a group of characters in a car, and something goes down on a bridge they're on. And it's kind of like having all these characters in this glass bottle, and imagine infected in that glass bottle and a bunch of other people around them, because there's a pretty decent amount of people on this bridge because it is kind of like a traffic jam. I would say as far as that is, we kind of show the violence and the dangerous elements that are a part of this world right off the bat.
Yeah.
Which I think we pride ourselves on. And on top of that, our characters aren't your normal characters. They bicker, they fight. They're a bunch of high schoolers, so they're very immature. They really don't know how to blend together. So right off the bat, you kind of get into, I think, unique things, which is just this dangerous world, and you have no information on it, and this blend of characters that don't work together. And it was kind of trying to figure out how that world could mesh with the characters and that world building sense. As far as the zombies, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't do it, but we try to stray away from the horror tropes. As like, for example, like our project is in daylight. Like the first issue, like we're not in at nighttime, so we're doing it in daylight where, these infected are coming out and they're trying to kill you, and you got to do whatever you can to survive. I just think we try to do wherever we can a different take on the zombie genre. It's all these kind of corny tropes or slasher tropes where someone's running away and they're real stupid. It's like, no, like we wanted it to make it feel realistic. And that's what we tried to do in this story.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit more about the creation process. What was it like finding the right team to help get your vision of the story onto ink and paper and to look the way that you want it to look?
Yeah, so that was a journey. So like if you read issue one, before you even read issue one, we have a credits page and there's a bunch of names on there, and it's a lot of callbacks to people who helped us get there. And a lot of people before we even did the comic book, as far as like sketches and storyboards and all that good stuff. For us, it was really finding someone who wanted to partner up with us. And we had a little bit of difficulty with that because issue one, our co-creator drew the first 12 pages, but we were having time management problems. So like we both work full-time jobs. So
Right.
this is what we do in our spare time. You know what I mean? So we were having a time management problem. So we brought on other artists for issue one. One of the artists who was on issue one actually finished 2, 3, and 4 with us. But my co-creator, he did all the lasting inking effects. Like if you read issue 4, all the shading, all the inking, the way we were able to capture, I think, what time of day it was, the darkness in some rooms, that was all him.
Mm.
And I think because he stepped off of issue one, he got to see, I think, what was happening in the background of like, he hasn't been an artist for that long. So he was kind of teaching himself. And this is what this year was about, was teaching himself how to draw. And that's what you're going to see in issue 5. I think you're going to see a little bit of a style change, but issue
Okay.
5 moving forward is going to be, it's going to be all the same now. It's the co-creators doing it. It was hard to, I think, find a team that we we could work with well. And, it's all about, I think, timeline, patience, and, giving the proper credit. I think a lot of artists or a lot of people are creating comics. It's like, hey, we have 4 pages that we need done in like 5 days. And it's like, it's like they're human beings too. Like they got their own things going on too. And it's very difficult to have timelines like that. So for us, it was about figuring out how we could do that realistically. And right now we're a team of 4. So we have Ivan, who does the covers, me and Trey, who does the art, and he also co-writes with me as well. So he's a writer, he's an artist, an inker, and a shader. And then we have my little brother who does the storyboards. He does all the social promotional art, and he is also hopping on line art as well moving forward. Okay. So we're all trying to help each other out. It's kind of like an ecosystem right now of artists, writers. The cool thing, and I will say I'm very fortunate because me, my little brother, and my co-creator, we meet up on a week-to-week basis in person in the same room, and we're able to drop ideas and kind of almost like meet together and collab. And it's kind of what you see on our Kickstarter, which I think a lot of people loved, a lot of the ideas we tried to put out.
Okay, cool. So this is probably my favorite question of the entire interview. But what is your favorite part of the creation process? With everything you said, with working with the other inkers and artists, and everyone collabing together to make the product, what is your favorite part of that creation process?
Oh man, I think it's the stages, because it's like we start at like storyboards. And you like for storyboards, we're getting like stick figure drawings from my little brother. Not stick figures, but it's like very, very rough sketches because we're trying to lay out what this page is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And then I'm helping out with the perspective, so I'm kind of going in and I'm trying to get anything I can to help my co-creator figure out how this panel is going to look or figure out where the environment's going to be. And I think as you go through, it's almost like seeing something be built from nothing, and to see it like on each stage is just really cool. And then you when you have everything together and then you read it in full physically, it's like, wow, I remember when we had stick figures and now it's like full on pages and it's a full on book where we have 24 pages consecutively and it all blends together in a way that I think we're really proud of.
Gotcha. That's really cool. I think that's one of my favorite parts of creating comics too. Is just going from beginning to end and seeing like the final product. Like I think I like the sketching out part of like building the actual panels up and going in and putting in the details. But that's just me because I come from a drawing background. So that's just like where my mind goes. So I like every time I do these interviews with other comic book creators, I just love kind of picking their brain and just understanding what it is that motivates them or keeps them going, because you've done this. It can be draining sometimes working with other people and just like communication and things and trying to convey your ideas across and get your vision across and seeing it being interpreted by another person who does something that you can't. You are good with creating the story. They are good with the visual aspects of it. So I've always found that part of the process like very fascinating. So that's a really good feedback you gave me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What has been some of the obstacles and struggles that you have faced while trying to make this comic?
Oh man, I mean, how much time you got?
We got all the time in the world.
No, on a serious note, I think I am a person who is like high stressing out like about pages and due dates and timelines, and we kind of just try to take a day at a time. I'm really fortunate because, I'm not the only one on this project. So we try to set a realistic standard. And, it's very difficult because, once again, like we work full-time jobs. So like the days we have off, we're working like as soon as we get up, we're working on the comic till when we go to bed. So it's like, it's a grind for sure. I think the biggest factor we have faced is timeline because we started issue 5 at the very beginning of this year. And we're now just wrapping up issue 5 because of like artists we hired on that left the project and then like Trey trying to jump on and learning how to draw. So it was like a lot of a big learning curve. But we knew if we wanted to tell the story the way we wanted to tell it, we had to jump on board. We had to do it ourselves because the communication that we've experienced with artists has been poor. You know, we've had people hop on for a few pages and then just dip. And it sucks when that happens because it's like you can either continue what their style is and try at least, or you have to start completely over because you don't want to give a project that, you know, if you're reading 8 pages, you're like, oh, that's weird. That style just changed after page 8. Now we have to. That's kind of strange, and we didn't want that to happen. So we try to do our best to have one cohesive feeling for these issues.
Gotcha. If you don't mind me asking, why have you been having issues with artists just jumping on and then jumping off? And what have you done to correct those issues and overcome that type of challenge? Like you said, you have an artist on for 8 pages and then on page 9 is something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
What? How did you go about fixing those issues or facing those issues?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, like I said, it's patience, but a lot of it is reliability because you want to work with someone who's reliable and likes the project, wants to hop on. Because for me, it was always about whoever we hire, it needs to be a partnership. You're
Right.
ultimately coming on our project and you are laying your creative, your creative mindset, your ideas on this project. So whenever we did pages, I was always like, hey, this is what we want to do, but there's room for whatever you want to do too, because we wanted to feel like a partnership.
Right.
Unfortunately, for some of the artists that I hired, it was always this thing of money of, hey, I know we've been only working for 4 weeks, but I want a pay raise. And it's like to be in front, because obviously artists may have more than one project they're working on. And for anyone that is, I think hiring an artist, there needs to be guidelines. There needs to be certain expectations when you hop on with someone. And I think the expectations were either not communicated enough, or it was this thing where, hey, I need to make a living and I need to make more money. And unfortunately for us, like, this is a business too, so we can't just throw away money and there is no guarantee that we can even work on the next issue without us being into debt. So
Right.
it's really this fine line, and I think that's why we transitioned to doing it ourselves, because we don't have like all this money to throw at artists. We wish we did, because then it could help them out, but we're not at that point in our career yet where we could do that.
Right.
So it was always trying to find a way where we could realistically make comics and not be totally broke, and also trying to help the artists wherever we could, you know what I mean? And trying to communicate and trying to build something up, which I think we did for the first 4 issues. Like, we brought someone on who loved the project, but unfortunately for them, they wanted to hop on their own comic book, you know what I mean? And we totally understand,
Right.
like, when it comes to the things you guys want to do, it's going to be what you want to do at the end of the day. I'm not going to force you to be on something you don't want to be a part of.
Right.
So it's just this kind of thing, like, where the road just splits, like, someone wants to do one thing, someone wants to do another, and it has to be a partnership. All parties have to be willing, and I'm never going to force an artist to be on a project they don't want to be a part of,
Right.
So it was always, I think, that as we were moving forward with some of these artists.
I'm not sure, but because I've asked this question a lot to other comic book writers, and they have various stories. Some people have gotten lucky. First
Mm-hmm.
round, go looking for a person. They found somebody that was willing to work with them and
Mm-hmm.
create magic together. And I've heard other like some really horrific horror stories, worse than what
Mm-hmm.
we've gone through. So I'm not sure if there's like because I haven't done comics since I was in college. So that's like almost 10 years ago when I was last really involved with it. But even back then, there were websites where you can go and find other comic book artists and view their work and their portfolio and work out deals or some things, or even,
Mm-hmm.
just go to local colleges and find some artsy fartsy kids and, hey,
Yeah.
offer them an internship or something, just being honest. But I understand that process of a writer finding an artist and just being able to work because like, you both have a vision for the project. You both, this is time, effort, and energy. It takes time for you to write an outline, to write a story, to write a script, and it takes time to draw and create and ink and pencil all those things together. So it's a balance. So everyone wants to be compensated. If they're not, if they don't see the final goal, sometimes it's hard to keep an artist on board, because there's always something coming up that an artist can do, some other work that can be done. No starving artist is a thing that applies to both visual artists as well as writers and performers and artists of all type of nature. So, like you said, it's a balancing act and it's a struggle. I get it. Trust me, I get it. With that said, and this is gonna be a little fun question to ask. I asked this jokingly, but I've gotten some really messed up answers with this. But I want to ask you, what do you think is more important in creating comics? Is it the story and the writing that goes behind it, or is it the visual elements, the inking, the penciling, the panels themselves that carry the weight of the comic? Which is more important?
Oh man. The way I've always described it is, to me, it was always the art is the appetizer for the book, and the story is your main course. Because ultimately, you could have the best visuals in the world, but if the story is flat, if the characters are flat, if things don't make sense, the payoff isn't going to be there. You want your story to match your visuals. And another thing which a lot of people don't understand, and I put this high up on the list of importance, is panel layout. Because it is an art, it is a craft.
No,
and if you don't have a proper flow, your story is gonna be choppy. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna feel like it needs to have this motion about it where it feels good on the page. It feels good in the story. It feels good for whatever story you're trying to tell. And I would put that with story because it is a story element. You're telling it almost like, like, for example, if you were to shoot a movie and your camera was like super shaky and all over the place, you'd be like, yo, what the heck is the cameraman doing? And I think the panels, in a sense, are a camera, and that's how we kind of write it. Like in our script, we'll say, oh, there's a front angle of the camera, and there's not really a camera there. It's just almost trying to direct it like it's a movie, because that's what those panels are. That's where your sights are. That's where where whatever you're seeing. And I'm not saying that the art is not important, because the art is very, very important. But I think you need to, if you only have one, your story's going to fall flat on the other. So you need that combination of story and art, because if you're just missing one, it's not going to work. It really isn't. It's almost like nowadays where you see on Twitter where everyone's commenting on cinematography on movies.
Right.
If there isn't good cinematography, people are just ripping it apart. So I feel like it's almost like in that sense. You know what I mean? Like if you have one and you don't have the other, you're gonna be like, yeah, the story was awesome, but like, what were they thinking with the visuals? Like, what was going on? And the same thing, like, yo, the visuals were amazing, but like, what's going on with the story? Like, I can't get invested. I can't get involved in this. I don't know if I have an answer, to be quite honest. I think for me, being a writer, I think the writing is the most important, because, for example, and I've seen it too, is in like, I think it was what's the show? I think it's either One Piece or it's the dude. I'm trying to think of the manga. The dude who's bald and he can like beat someone up in one punch, and I forget what the name of it is called.
One Punch Man?
Yeah, One Punch Man. If you go back, look at the visuals for his first issue. The art was not there. It wasn't there, but over time, he was able to build up a really good art style and more detail. So I think like that comes in time. But if you have that really good story, people are still going to come back. People are going to be like, okay, it wasn't the best visuals, but I love the way they're doing the story. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like issue 1 to us, like me and my co-creator always talk about, like issue 1's visuals weren't anything crazy, but where we were able to take visuals for issue 5, and that took time to get there, I think is like a super upgrade in our opinion. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think, yeah, that would be my answer. I think story, I'm kind of biased because I'm a writer, but anytime I see something awesome and the story just isn't hitting for me, I'm like, yeah, that was cool. But if like the story was like up there with the visuals, it would have been top notch for me. So I think for me, it has to be story.
Okay, cool. That's fascinating. So let me ask you, how has the Kickstarter process been for you, and what has that experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. Self-learning. That was another thing we I had to go through a Kickstarter. This is our first Kickstarter,
Uh huh.
and I say our first Kickstarter. We had one like 7 years ago, but we didn't know how to use the interface, and it was a half-ass try at Kickstarter. So
Gotcha, gotcha.
we had like one backer, and we had like no information up on the Kickstarter page because we didn't know what we were doing. Um, I think this time around, it's been a lot of research. It's been a lot of, okay, what works, what doesn't.
Right,
And I'm very fortunate because on Twitter, there's a little indie community that I kind of bond with and communicate with. So there's some creators on there that went through the process and were able to give me some advice and were able to help me out on that sense. So I'm very
right.
fortunate. But for anyone who wants to do a Kickstarter, I would just suggest like go on Kickstarter, look at the Kickstarters, look at what you like, what you don't like. And
Hmm.
that's a lot of what I did. And that's a lot, I think, what you see on Kickstarter. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't really consider is when you do Kickstarter, you want to make it feel uniformed. Like that's what we went into this because it's almost like a resume for your comic. Like if you go into a job interview and everything's all over the place and it's hard to read and it's not put together well enough,
Right,
they're gonna say like, yeah, no, we don't want to hire you. So it's
right,
almost like your resume to the consumer, like, hey, this is what our comic's about. This is what we're trying to do. These are our goals. These are our pages. These are our rewards. And if you can lay that out in a really nice way, I think it's gonna bring a lot of people in.
right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's been a process. We were talking about doing another Kickstarter this year, but honestly, our creative team they busted their rumps on this one. They really worked overtime to bring a lot of cool rewards and a lot of cool artwork, and I don't think we're gonna do one the end of this year. I want to
Right,
give my creative team a rest, and
right.
I think
Okay.
everyone deserves a break. But we're super happy with how this Kickstarter came out, and the amount of support and compliments and everything we put together has been exciting and surprising all in one. So we are super fortunate for the support.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's good. I'm glad you've had such a positive experience doing it the second time around. As of the recording of this podcast, you're about 48 hours from the end of your Kickstarter campaign. So
Yes.
congratulations on that. You're about to hit a milestone. It's gonna feel good. How
Yep.
close are you to reaching your Kickstarter goal?
So we're actually fully funded right now. So
Oh,
everything
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So I think we hit fully funded about 2 days ago. So once again, like you, like creators out there, like just put your head down, market, get the work done, put your name out there as much as humanly possible. You know, there were days where I was posting 7, 8 times a day about this Kickstarter. Just put your head down. Like we were worried. Don't get us wrong, but we just kept trying to get the work done, and we are fortunate enough where we are able to get funded on the last, I would say, week of this Kickstarter. You know what I mean? And another thing, set realistic goals. Don't try to raise $10,000 on some of these projects where I see this, because the thing that sucks is when you do a Kickstarter, if you don't reach your goal, nobody gets anything. You know what I
Right,
mean? And that sucks. You put all this work in, people came and supported you, and at the end of the day, if you don't reach your goal, it feels like it's all for nothing. You know what I
right,
mean? So I definitely think like having a realistic expectation of what you can afford and what you're trying to raise. You know what I mean? Especially people like me. Like I don't have a giant fan base yet. I don't have thousands of people lining up to see this Kickstarter. You really gotta try to set the mark where you can hopefully reach this. You know what I mean? Um,
gotcha.
and we actually changed our goal because originally it was $3,000 we were trying to raise, and we pushed it down to two. And I'm so fortunate that we did, because like we just hit the 2 mark. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we would have been sweating right now, like, oh my God, we have 48 hours left. What are we going to do? And that would have really sucked, you know?
Yeah, no, that would have really sucked. And I didn't know you can actually change the goal mid campaign. So at
No,
least
you can't change it mid campaign. You have to change it before you go active on your campaign. But
gotcha.
yeah,
So you did planning and research and was just like, I don't want to say second guessing yourself, but just betting on the outcome, thinking that it was safer to go with a lower amount. So that worked out.
exactly. Like if you're starting to have doubts on what your end result is going to be, put it down $1,000. As long as it's budgetary wise, you can do that. Do it because it's gonna work out in the long run. Like like for me, and I actually talked to Craig the other day, which we're gonna do on our next Kickstarter, so it doesn't happen. Is guaranteeing that even if we don't hit our goal, we send out an issue digitally to everyone. You know what I mean? Because you
Right.
came out and you came out and you came and supported us. So it's like it's just you put so much effort and time into things like this, and for no one to get anything, it sucks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it almost feels like a failed attempt. And, you know, to all the creators who haven't reached their goal, it's not the end. You know what I mean? Like you learn from this process. You learn what works. You learn what doesn't.
Right.
And that's going to create, I think, a better mindset when you go into it a second, third, fourth, fifth, however many times you're going into this, I think this genre and this avenue for Kickstarter.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this very interesting question because you brought up a lot of great, interesting points about being a creative and just kind of having to struggle, make a living being a creative. What are some different avenues and outlets can a creative, regardless of how they create, can they do to make revenue with their art outside of working a 9 to 5 job and outside of starting a Kickstarter for a big project?
So the first thing I would say is if you're an artist, and I'm not personally an artist, but what I've seen and what I can say that I think works is to draw every day. You know, there's something that you need to do, and I think it's step one. And we kind of learned this a little bit further along in our career is making those connections with strangers, making those connections with people, whatever avenue you're in. You know, they always say in college or anywhere, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's
Right.
absolutely true. You know what we're trying to do, and I suggest anyone does this is try to create a loyal fan base. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
these people who want to invest in your product, whether it's art, whether it's comics, whether it's posters, postcards, whatever it is, like you ultimately, I think, have to break down that wall because for them to keep coming back to you, they have to believe in you
Right.
foremost. Your product can be amazing, awesome, but if you're like not the nicest person and you don't want to interact with anyone, you're gonna lose that connection. You're gonna lose a possibility where if you get that connection and something we've done on Kickstarter, we've found the connection and we found some fans and we've tried to break down that wall, they're gonna come back when we do another project. They're gonna come back when we do another issue. You know, you
Right.
want that customer rapport. You know, it's like anything else. Like if you're able to treat someone nice and be humble and be generous, they're gonna keep coming back to your project. You know what I mean? And we've tried to break down the wall. Like a lot of the stuff we've done on Kickstarter, and people have told us that we're crazy for doing it, but like we've tried to make this Kickstarter affordable, like to the average consumer. You know,
Right.
one of our tiers is literally 5 issues digitally for $12. I don't know anyone else who's doing that or anyone else who is trying to, you know, give away issues for $2.10.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of how we went into the Kickstarter. That's I think that's a token of our appreciation to the fans. Like you guys all came and you know were able to visit our project, and we wanted to give something back in any capacity we could. Because at the end of the day, they are the backbone of Raze Comics. You know, without them, we're nothing. We're just the book. You know,
Right.
so you gotta build that up. And you just gotta be you like I've heard it a bunch of times, and I didn't believe it till I tried it myself. You gotta do it every day, whatever it is. Posting on socials, drawing, connecting with fans. You have to do it every day. Don't
I
get me
agree.
wrong. You can take breaks on social media. I'm actually might take a break after this Kickstarter because
Right.
it's been quite a time I've been on socials. I think you just need to connect with the fans as much as you possibly can, you know?
Right.
And you got to make it feel organic, you know? Like if you're plugging anything, get to know these people before you just saying, hey, go check out my Kickstarter. You know,
Right.
it almost feels like a salesperson. So you got to try to figure out ways how to organically get people to your project that they might care about.
Gotcha. I 100% agree. Thank you so much for that and sharing.
Absolutely.
Here's a weird question since we were talking about money and things. Why did you decide to go black and white for your issues versus color?
So there's many reasons. There's not just one. So
Okay.
I would say the first reason is when we were doing issue 1, we redid issue 1 3 times. So we had a full issue 1, we read it, hated it, threw it away.
Oh wow. Okay.
We did issue 1 again. Our artist left halfway through. So we started over on issue 1 the third time. We simplified the story, or tried to simplify the story. We tried to just have this throwing you into the world, having that shock factor, and building upon off these characters. So when we're going through it on the third time, we actually tried coloring it, and we didn't like how it looked. We thought, this is a horror book. We wanted to feel scary. We wanted to feel like an old horror movie, the black and white kind of feeling, like Frankenstein and Dracula. We wanted it to have that feeling, and it was kind of a nod to that genre, to where it started.
Gotcha.
And we knew that if we were to do black and white, that there was a big scale in there where it could feel like color without having color. And that's what we tried to establish moving forward. And I think when you see issue 5, when people read issue 5, they'll understand what we're going for in that sense. And props off to Trey, my co-creator, because he killed it on the visuals. He was able to make it feel scary and make it feel like it had color in there without actually having color. And another thing is, like, we wanted it to feel, and if you ever read any of our pages, we have this kind of black border around each page. And that we did that in a sense of, we almost wanted it to feel like a TV show. You know, like when you're watching something, you have that black screen, either if it's on the top or bottom. Obviously, if you have a super nice plasma, you won't get that, but for the most part, you'll get that kind of black border. And that was just a kind of like focus your eyes on the panels and really just hone in on what's going on.
Right. Gotcha. That's cool. That's cool. That's actually a really fascinating take on that. So after your Kickstarter ends, what's next? What's the next process or the next step in this process of creating a comic?
Yeah, so we're on issue 5 right now. So we're super excited to get that out to people, because I think anyone, even if you haven't read Raze, the plot of issue 5 is so simple that anyone could understand. So, and I'll give you the log line just so people can understand what it is. Issue 5, and a little bit of a spoiler, so apologies, but issue 5, where it starts off, there is an infected where our survivors are. Someone in our group was taking care of this person who was recently infected. At the end of issue 4, he is gone. The beginning of issue 5, child they picked up from the bridge, he is now missing. So it is now a race to the finish to find this child before this infected does. So our survivors are going out to find this kid before the infected does, because if the infected finds this kid, all hell is going to break loose. So that is the premise of issue 5. As far as after issue 5, we have so much story planning. Like I said earlier, this is 15 years in the making. Right. So I wouldn't expect a 4-issue story. Right now we're considering, and we're coining this as the prologue. This is the introduction to actually what's going to happen in the story. So we have issue 6 coming up, and issue 6 for us is really exciting. We were able to go over the visuals just last week and to see how it's going to come together. And yeah, it's a hell of a ride. We're excited, and we're hoping to get issue 6 out before this year ends. So that is ultimately our goal.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So outside of Kickstarter, how else do you promote Raise and try to bring awareness and put more eyes on it? Do you go to the local conventions or bookstores or things like that in your area and try to promote it, or certain things online that you're doing to try to promote it outside of Kickstarter?
Yeah, so it was, I think, earlier this year slash last year, we were in 30 stores on the East Coast. And that takes a lot of time of just driving to these stores, having issues ready. Our biggest tactic to getting eyes on this project was anytime I go in a comic book store, I'm giving them issue one. I'm not selling issue one, I'm giving them issue one. Because it creates a foundation where I can create a business partnership with some of these stores, because no comic book store is gonna not take free stuff.
Right.
I don't think anyone's not gonna take free stuff. Where we're able to build up a business relationship, and then we're trying to go to as many cons as we can. Our biggest difficulty this year was figuring out production timelines, because we ultimately next year we want to put out 4 issues a year. That's our goal. And we're really striving towards that. So we are going to one con, and it's in our hometown for Halloween, which is going to be really exciting. And we're going to have some brand new merch there. So if anyone's in the area, you can come check us out. It's in Worcester, Massachusetts, and that's where I'm from. So if anyone's in the area, come check us out. It's at That's Entertainment. But yeah, it's mostly my goal after this Kickstarter is getting these issue 5s printed, going to these stores physically again, and trying to spread awareness. I mean, it's an uphill battle. It's an everyday battle. It's getting our name out there, being present on social medias, and physically going to these stores and these events to try to spread the word and create this loyal fan base that we want.
So let me ask you not a personal question, but let me ask you a question about publication. Why did you and your crew decide to go the self-publication route versus trying to find a publisher to produce your comic?
Well, for this is where it comes on my side, and this is how I personally feel. For any publication that reaches out to us or wants to work with us, it has to be a partnership. Because I'm sorry, like, I am not giving you a part of the royalty. I am not giving you a percentage if you are not bringing something that has importance on this project, where I'm giving away a part of our income. So it really has to be a partnership. I am down to sign with any publication that we are treated as such. But I'm going to be honest, we do marketing, we do the art, we do the lettering, we do the story. There is a very, very, very thin, I think, category to what someone can bring us besides promotion and marketing. And it would have to be pretty significant for us to sign with anybody, for us to go that route. Any publication should know, Raze Comics, we're not holding back. If you are in any way, shape, or form trying to negate our story, we will not work with you. This is a story, I think, that is going to go places that not many comics have gone. And we're proud of that. We want to push the element of storytelling. That is ultimately our goal. And in any shape, way, or form, if anyone tries to stop that, we will go our own route. And that is the indie comic book community. And we're happy to be there.
That's a big bold statement right there. I'm not sure a lot of people would be willing to say that, given whatever their goals might be trying to do. So that's very interesting. That's a very interesting take. So we're nearing the end of this podcast. Where can everybody find you and find Raze Comics online?
So we are on almost every social media out there. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. All you have to do is search Raze Comics, Raze. Mostly we're on Facebook and Twitter. We're most active on that. So you can find us at Raze Comics. We have a Facebook page where you can see all updates and what we're doing with this comic book. We also are on Twitter, and I'm using Twitter more frequently than I would say the other socials. So you can find Raze Comics at Raze Comics, Raze. And then you can find me personally at comics_Raze, Raze. My header is 2% milk. I'm probably the only one in the world who has that. So if you want to come and follow me, and yeah, we're doing some pretty fun stuff towards the end of this year. So keep a lookout for that. If you haven't checked out our Kickstarter, also search Raze Comics, or you just have to search Raze on Kickstarter, and you should be able to find us. I think we're the only one with that title. So
Okay, great. Great. And before we go, just do you have any, if you could give one piece of advice to anybody who's a comic book creator, whether an artist or a writer or any content creator in general, if you could just give one piece of advice, what would it be?
oh man, I would say don't quit, even if it's hard. You know, if you stop what you're doing, if you stop creating, if you stop the mission, the perspective on what you're trying to achieve, I think you're not going to see what the outcome is. You're going to cancel yourself from the potential success you might have. So I think no matter how hard the road gets, just know the road isn't bumpy all the way through. You know, at a certain point, it's going to become flat and you're going to have a smooth ride, but you got to get past the bumps. You got it. Because if you don't, you're not gonna be able to enjoy the ride once you make it. You know, you're not even gonna be on the ride because you quit. So
Right.
don't quit. You know, as hard as it gets easier. You know, and yeah, I think that'd be my advice for everybody or anybody who's trying to create.
Gotcha. I again, those are some really good those are some good long lasting words to end on, and I agree. Just don't give up. Because that's where you truly fail, is when you give up on your own
Mhm.
dreams. There's always a will and a way to prosper. There's always something you can do to make it out there. I believe in no starving artists. I believe in thriving artists. And you mentioned something earlier where you say you don't consider yourself an artist. I consider you an artist. You're a literary artist. 1,000 years from now, scholars will be paleontologists will find comics and dig them up and and look upon them like how we look at the great Greek epics of like 3,000 years ago. So you're an artist. Trust me, like it's an art.
Appreciate it.
It takes an art to be a master of the English language or any language and put a story to paper, and to have that level of creativity. Like that's very hard. People like,
hmm
a lot of people take just being able to write and being able to tell a story, take advantage of that because they think anyone can do it, but it's very hard. It's very
hmm
hard.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so you are an artist. You are definitely going to do a lot of great things. Again, I read Raze
Appreciate it.
and I read the first 4 issues. It was good. I am hooked. I do like the art style and how it kind of flowed and things. Because I was sitting there reading like, huh, I have no idea who these characters are, and we're almost in volume 4. Oh, okay, yeah. So
The
yeah,
puzzle piece. We're gonna give you what these characters are about, but it's gonna take some time. So just bear with us and being patient
right,
because we will give away what these characters are all about. And that's the cool thing. Like to plug the Kickstarter again, we have this really. It took us like a month and a half to do. It's this giant photo of all the characters, and we actually give bios. So it gives some information on these characters, and it also shows their personality in this picture, which is just the coolest thing I think to get people invested into what these characters are going to be about moving
right,
forward.
right. Right. And wow. So thank you. I just like to thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely,
Um, and congratulations on, you already know you're funded and you're 48 hours out, so
they are
that must be a really good feeling, so you can already just move on and worry about to the next step and get ready
absolutely.
for doing all these autograph signings. I'm sure you're going to be doing on your covers, and hoping you don't get arthritis, but congratulations on your success. Trust me, I know what it feels like to follow your dreams and to finally achieve something as big or
hmm
small as it is. You are about to hit it. Trust me, you're gonna want to celebrate when it closes later this week and
Oh yeah,
books
hundred
come in.
percent.
Oh my God, please post pictures when those books come in. I will help promote you.
Oh, absolutely.
I just had an artist, a writer. She's a writer. She just got her Kickstarter books in after completing hers, and she was ecstatic. Books look amazing. So I can't wait for you to get that in. And just thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
thank you for having me. I'll come on anytime again, you know. It was
yeah,
a pleasure talking and obviously sharing our ideas and opinions, you know. It's always a fun time and
Right.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's
having
always
me.
a fun time. No problem. I will definitely have you on again. And for everybody else, this has been Blerdkast. You can find me everywhere you can listen to podcasts at. You can find me on Spotify, Anchor, Audible, Amazon, and every other podcasting platform. I always struggle with the beginning and the end parts of the podcast. Like it never fails. And you can also find me Blerdography on YouTube, where this video will be posted as well as the audio version will be put up on all my podcasting platforms. And you can follow me on my social media, Blerdography everywhere. I'm also on Reddit now, so if you would like to follow my subreddit, go ahead and look for it. Links to everything will be in the description. And don't forget to be nerdy.